Okay. 1, 2, 3, 1, and I am live.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, and welcome to It's No Secret, a podcast dedicated in memory of Tyler Mathews. And today, helping me and with me is JD Green. A little change in venue because, the guest for today has COVID.
Yeah.
And I really thought that we were done with all of that COVID shit. So I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit grumpy about that.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Understand.
Just stop it with all of that COVID crap. So anyways, JD has agreed to come in and talk about what's happening here now.
For minimum wage. I mean, I'm not doing it for free. I'm getting paid.
No, you're not. You're getting paid as much as I get paid. How's that? That's how much you're going to get paid today, buddy.
Yeah.
But anyways, so we are here to talk about what is going on right here, right now. Not just in the Washington County, Barre area, but all over the state of Vermont. But most importantly to me, what is going on right here, right now in Washington County. And that is not enough. Not enough at all. More and more services have shut down. We know that Turning Point Center lost their space during the flood in July. And then a few weeks after, Central Vermont Substance Abuse, CVSAS, which is located in Berlin, announced that they would be dissolving and closing their doors the last day of September, or the last Friday in September. That happening left a whole lot of people with absolutely no services. Frightening, especially with the number of overdoses that are occurring right now on a daily basis, not just in this area, but statewide. The number of fentanyl and xylazine overdose deaths has increased dramatically, and I'm gonna say it here. I'm gonna say it out loud. If you are dealing fentanyl and xylazine, that's murder. You are knowingly putting a drug into a drug that will kill. And you do that intentionally. And when you do that, you should be charged and prosecuted as a murderer. There's a big difference of knowing there's a problem and knowing that you're selling cocaine or crack or any of those things, but actually putting a drug in them, lacing them like that is a whole new ball game, and it's happening far too often.
We just had a guy that overdosed, presumably on fentanyl, and dropped dead in the middle of the street.
Yes.
Right in Barre.
Right
on North Main Street. Right in the hub of the Granite City. And
it happens
pretty much right on the double yellow line, right there, stopping traffic.
Yeah, it happens a lot. One of our sponsors had an overdose right in the driveway of their business not long ago. It's more frequent, and scary enough, it's going to get even more frequent as people that were surrounded by services slowly have nothing, literally nothing. There may be some AA or NA meetings here and there. I know enough ministries they're doing their meetings again, and I've posted those up and will continue to do so. But we just know that not enough is being done. And the big question is, the state of Vermont received all kinds of settlement money from Big Pharma. Where's the money? Where's it going?
That's opioid settlement money, right?
Yes, yes. And so, where is that money? Where is it going? Because if it's going to these services, why are they closing? What is making them shut their doors? Why can't they find people to provide the services?
What is the reason why they closed?
There's been no reason given. Just that they would be dissolving.
When?
They already closed. They closed the final Friday in September. So they are no longer providing any supports in this area. The counselors, the daily, 3 days a week was IOP, which is intensive outpatient programming. Those meetings are no longer. The one-on-one counseling is no longer. The urine analysis that you had in often, not often, that's where they were done for the treatment court. All of those things are gone now. And it's literally is downright frightening. If we were already struggling severely with services, what are we going to do now that there's nothing?
Well,
and this should scare the community at large. This is a community problem because here the crime is going to continue to climb and climb and climb as these people have no help.
It's disturbing that they closed so suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it brings it to a new level of the fact that if they closed so suddenly without any kind of public, was there anything written in the newspaper? Was there anything?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, I know because of the dealings that my family has with them, and but to my knowledge, there was no word. There's been no news report. There's no accountability for this happening. And so, like I said, it's something that we should all be concerned about. Now, there is a program in Montpelier, Treatment Associates. They are taking over the clients from CVSAS, and they will now be performing the UAs for treatment court and in other aspects. But how many people can they provide services for? Everybody is already at their max capacity for what they can do. So can one facility possibly help all of these people? And the people that are on this end of town in Barrie area, can they get to Montpelier? Are they able to attend? That was already an issue when it was just up in Berlin. The GMTA supposedly offers free rides down to these services or to anybody getting services, but we also know that GMTA has cut all kinds of services and themselves in certain runs from Barrie to Montpelier, and only go at certain times. And it's going to be a huge problem. It's not going to be. It is a huge problem, and this is just going to exacerbate that problem. Yep. I mean, it just is.
So, mention of Bob Purvis and
at Turning Point.
Mm-hmm. He's been on Aired Out. He's sat down with you for It's No Secret.
Mm-hmm.
Great guy. Really is dialed in. Has his thumb on what's going on in Central Vermont. Probably a lot more than many in our own government.
Mm-hmm.
Not probably. Definitely. Weren't they were thinking about shopping around for a new location prior to the July 10th flood?
So they do have a new location that they are interested in, but they have not raised all of the funds for that new location. They were, they've been fundraising for that for quite some time now, but they're not there yet. They're just not. And as far as our mayor, what about our mayor? I don't know.
That was a question that was just asked
Yeah.
by.
So I know that the city of Barrie did receive funds from the state of Vermont that were part of the settlement funds. I don't know what they're doing with that money. Um, but they need to ask questions and ask questions of the right people to know what is needed here. Because and I'm not being disrespectful when I say this. Everybody knows what my past is with the mayor. But this has nothing to do with that. I'm not saying this to be disrespectful because this is the majority of people. He doesn't know what we need. He doesn't. And neither do a lot of other people. That's just the fact of the matter. The right people need to be asked. And those are the people that were providing service that are for some reason not right now. That's a question to ask parents like myself or Tyler's mom or many other family members, and then people that are in recovery themselves. What do you need? Those are the people that need to be asked, and I say that, like I said, with respect. It is not really his fault or anybody else's fault that they don't know, because I don't believe that many do.
This is a lot to take in. We already have some nice comments that are coming in here. Amy saying, "I wish there were more services." Burlington was in the news this morning that real grave concern in Burlington. I mean, everywhere in Vermont, but Burlington, especially because of the populace, is really experiencing record numbers of overdoses, like
on a daily basis.
Yeah, I was going to say a monthly basis, but it's like they're just constantly breaking records.
Right.
Every month that goes by, there's more overdoses than there were the previous month. And it was in the news this morning that they're
City council,
they're petitioning city councilors to demand some answers from the state about where this big pharma settlement, opioid settlement money is going. I mean, it's going to the state, but
to do what with?
To do what
right.
with?
What are they doing?
They're really going to start putting some pressure on the state to get some real answers here. Transparent answers.
Right. And I will be doing the same thing very soon. We're gonna be having a discussion with Phil Scott, and I'm going to be asking those same questions, and of not just him but a lot of people. I have a lot of questions for a lot of people about what we're going to do. Where do we go from here? Because where we've been is not working, and that's very clear.
Yep.
So where do we go from here? And where we go from here is asking the people that matter. Don't and again, respect. I say that respectfully, but even your primary care provider, I'm sorry, that isn't what they are trained to know and to do.
Right.
This is something that is very targeted, and to know where that money should be spent, the correct people should be asked. Dottie Moffat, Rick Barnett, people that have been in the trenches, Paul Brody, Bob Purvis, the director of the programming at even Jenna's Promise. I mean, go speak to people like that have programs in place that are working.
Yeah.
Um, You know, it's crazy when you lay in bed at night and you think to yourself, I want to win the Powerball because I want to buy a huge building and start a kick-ass facility. Like, that's what I think about constantly. But seriously, like, I don't think about buying an island and running away like most people would, or say it's just not in my mind, because that's how desperate I am to have such a place exist. That is, we have two places really that accept Medicaid in the state of Vermont, and that is Valley Vista and Serenity House.
Yep.
Both of those places are, the wait list is always so very long, and they keep you a maximum of 14 days. That is not rehab.
Yeah.
That is detox. That's all that is. There is no rehabilitation in there, not even the possibilities for rehabilitation in there. And when there always, in the past, there was always a time where you were there. Even if it was the 21 days, you did your 14 days, the last 7 days was really thinking about where you were going to go, what you were going to do, what was your after plan going to look like.
Yep.
Now you're trying to cram that into the 14 days as well. And then
it's not working.
No, and what is your after plan going to look like? Because there's nothing out here for a plan. So when you leave in 14 days and the only thing that you have is what you've always known, so if the crack pipe's what's making it better, how many days or how many hours do you think that it's going to be before you're right back in the same game?
Right.
Not very long.
I'm posting right now, and I'll read it. In 2021, so right in the height of COVID, 98,268 people died from preventable drug overdoses. That's an increase of 781% since 1999. These deaths represent 92% of the total drug overdose deaths in the United States, which, by the way, 106,699, which of course also include suicide and homicide. Those are startling numbers.
They are.
That's huge for the United States. We're surpassing other countries with our drug use and drug overdose deaths.
That's because other countries are getting it out of their country and bringing it all here. Also happening on a daily basis, many times a day, from every border imaginable. Not long ago, I spoke with a police officer who told me that they know that as fast as they can figure out what is here, a new drug, synthetic drug is manufactured and now coming to the United States. And same thing, if you are somebody supplying those and you are lacing drugs with them, that's murder. You know damn well what you're doing.
Look at what's in the news today.
Found just in Barry yesterday? You
Barry
mean?
City.
All the fentanyl. Yesterday.
Talk about this.
There were some gentlemen, and I use that term lightly.
They're
here,
not gentlemen, they're fucking scumbags.
From Springfield, Mass, who were held up squatting in an apartment right here in the city, and
South Main Street.
Yeah, and what they had on them was fentanyl. That's what they had here. Lots and lots of fentanyl that they have brought here and they're selling. That's murder. You know what that is going to do. You know. And so, Yeah. I mean, they're held without bail. I think they were arraigned this morning. I did not participate in any of the court hearings today, so I have no idea what happened, but I'm sure that we'll get some updates soon to know what's happening with them. And I'm also sure that they can make bail, positive of it, that they can make bail. Somebody, if not on their own, somebody will gladly get them out. You know, they got to keep the business going.
And we've heard before, you and I have both heard before, that Vermont has become known throughout the region, not just New England, but the eastern seaboard, as the place to go. Because if you get nabbed, the penalty is going to be lesser than other states. It's going to be easier for you to post bail and easier for you to get your figurative slap on the wrist.
Which is...
That's got to change,
and,
Raylene.
You know, it does have to change.
You need to tell Phil that.
It does have to... It has to change. And also, you know, with that same police officer, the conversation I had was very disheartening, actually, to know, and because I see it every day, I see them get beat up on terrible about, you know, the catch and release. First of all, the police are not catching and releasing. They catch. It's not up to them whether or not somebody gets released. They do their part. Yep. That's where they investigate. They turn over the information. They're told, yes, you can have a warrant, or no, you can't, or you have to get more information. The police are held in the same box as the majority of us are.
Yep.
They have a little more authority, but really when it comes to this, not a lot. And sometimes they can work for months and months and months on a case. And it's just as frustrating to them to see that case get thrown out on some stupid technicality.
Right.
One of them was a traffic stop, and during a traffic stop, a police officer has an allotted amount of time for a stop before it's considered unlawful restraint.
I've heard this.
Not kidding.
I've heard this,
and this is true. I
forgot about it.
It's very true. So, and so the same if they're using canine, the dog is investigating. There's a certain amount of time to conduct that stop, and this officer literally was over the allotted time by seconds. And this person had a lot of drugs in their car.
I heard this from you. You told me this.
He was over by literally seconds, and the case got thrown.
In Vermont.
In Vermont. Right here in Washington County. This is local town cop. How frustrating and how defeating is that? How defeating is it to go and bust somebody, or go somewhere and know that, okay, this we're investigating this overdose death, and you know, we literally didn't cross this one T, or just something so stupid.
Yep.
As you put a piece of blue tape on a baggie instead of a red piece, and that case gets thrown. We need to be more supportive of our law enforcement so that they don't get discouraged, so that they do stay diligent, because right now, at this point in time, they're all we have. We're all they have. The community that's willing to see something, say something,
right?
And they are all we have, because if they get discouraged and say fuck it, then we're in even bigger trouble.
Yeah.
Because it all boils down to the laws and what is and isn't allowed.
That's right.
So, you know, I see them, they get a lot of grief, but, and that's unfortunate that happens. But I mean, I've been there too. I've gotten pissed off and say, you know, why aren't you doing something? But, sometimes it takes a long time because of the standard they're held to.
I have conversations with my 19-year-old nephews about this and how dangerous it is. And, they like to smoke a little pot every now and then. And just talking about, the importance of knowing where it comes from. Because so much of it is laced with fentanyl.
Even marijuana.
It's a absolutely petrifying world out there to live in. And I think about my little girl Lily and what she's going to be up against. And
not just up against, what she could be up against right now. Finding paraphernalia or touching something that, picking up a dollar bill or one of those little rubber cap thingies that they use or something, and getting it on her hands. The exposure from fentanyl is deadly in such a minuscule amount.
Yeah.
Yes, because we were downtown.
Yep.
It was at one of the events in the city last year.
I remember.
And I knew exactly what it was because I've seen them. It's this little rubber, like it looks like a, the kids would think it was like a little thing to hide things in. It's like a little treasure box. It was round. It pops apart. It's got a little cubby space. And she wanted to pick it up.
Yep.
And in telling her no, do not touch that.
Yep.
And just having to be aware all the time of that, or the little baggies with a clown stamped on it, or if a little kid sees that and bends over to pick it up, they literally could have fentanyl in their hands.
Right.
And then it goes in their mouth. They touch their eyes. You have to be careful of so many things. Even now, it's not worried about her 10 years from now. It's even worried about her now.
It would be great to chat with the Central Vermont Prevention Coalition.
They're coming soon as well. The flood kind of messed everything up.
Dr.
Wow. I do not remember his name. No, it's not the guy who started.
Okay.
Dr. Detman is no longer in that role. So it is a new doctor, but Eva is there still, and she will be coming with a new doctor and talking with us about that. But her and I just really hope to have law enforcement soon to talk a little bit about what they go through, a little bit about what they're seeing, and the dangers of it all, and the importance of, if you're going to go to the playground, to bring an empty jug or a water bottle with you in case you do find anything. You can, pick it up with a gloved hand and put it in that to safely dispose of it and those sorts of things, because unfortunately you come across those things.
At the end of June, Vermont broke out its latest opioid death statistics and overdose statistics. At the very end of June. And it hit the news, and it was pretty hot in the news for one day. That there had been, at that point, at the end of June, 115 opioid-related accidental deaths among Vermont residents in 2023. So from January to the end of June, 115 overdose deaths in the Green Mountain state of Vermont. You, Raylene, were part of the overdose awareness vigil that was in August.
Yeah.
July. September. Okay. At that point, what were the number of overdose deaths?
Oh, well, over 500 names were read that day, but that is just who was added to the list. I would have to go and look at the numbers again. They're high. There are a lot. There was over 500 names on the list. Those are people that have been added by their family or friends to that list. But that's definitely and certainly not the number of people.
So just in the month of July and in August, summertime, that 100 number of 115 rose pretty staggeringly fast. Amazing.
And it's like I said, it's going to get worse because we had services then, and we don't have services now.
Right.
And the crime rate's going to increase even more as more people start using again and using more frequent and aren't able to get help. So instead, they're chasing the stuff. They will do anything that they have to do to get it.
There is everyone has an opinion, whether they voice it or whether they keep it quietly inside their own mind about drug use, drug overuse, and overdoses, and Narcan, the stigmas that go with folks who use drugs. Those stigmas are just a joke now. I mean, it's not your homeless person equals a drug use anymore. It
never was. That's the problem. That's
exactly
the identity that was given.
Exactly.
But somebody that is an addict has no specific face. There is no specific face. There's no specific upbringing. There's just not. It can literally happen to anyone. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't have a face.
It's and Narcan and look what's happening. I mean, we have kiosks of Narcan that are coming out all over the country now.
And I know there's a lot of people that have really hard feelings about
That's
Narcan.
Right.
Even I did at first. It made me grumpy, and until I've had to use it to save someone, and then I was extremely grateful that it was there for me to use. And now, I watch the comments and I listen to the comments of, you don't get free insulin and you don't. Well, here's the difference for me, and this is how I look at Narcan. So insulin, which I need myself to survive, is a medication. Narcan is a tool. So just like a defibrillator, a tourniquet, the paddles, all of that stuff. Narcan is a tool that will revive you. It's not a maintenance drug. It's not a prescribed medication. It literally is a tool. It's not something that somebody would get on a daily basis. We sure hope not. I know that, some people certainly have gotten more than their fair share of Narcan doses. We also know that if you give somebody Narcan that is suffering from something else, a heart attack or a diabetic episode or something, it can't harm them.
Yep.
Giving them Narcan, no matter what, cannot harm them. But it really needs to be recognized, I believe, as a tool and not a medication.
Yep. And once again,
and we have the boxes. I mean, we are a heart safe city. here in Vermont, here in Barrie. So you can, there are places where you can get life-saving devices throughout the city if you would need so, and the same with Narcan.
The folks that you've chatted with and that just on It's No Secret and that we have chatted with on Aired Out over the last couple of years that have become addicted to drugs are all over the road. I mean, it doesn't. You can't put a stamp on them. We've had educated
CEOs of companies we've had. I mean,
CEO
that literally had the life by the ass and lost everything
and went to prison. It's all walks of life, man.
You don't know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And we're surrounded by other states that have serious issues with it as well. New Hampshire, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut.
But
look
Vermont,
what's coming out of Springfield, Massachusetts. My God.
Yeah, Vermont is pretty high up there, like in the top 5, maybe even the top 3 now. If you consider the ratio, the population, it's ranked pretty high up there on the list. And being such a small state, it's absolutely frightening to know the numbers on a monthly basis, on an annual basis. It's absolutely frightening.
Yeah.
Because to be considered to be, in the top like that of a state that is drowning in this problem, is just crazy.
I'm going to drop a story from Digger, the link here, which is dated, and that it's like so many of us are tired of hearing that Vermont has a problem that's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and frankly, just saying it like it is. I've said this to you many times off the air, and I know I'll probably get a little bit of heat, but there's so many other things that are going on in Vermont that a certain sector of folks seem to gravitate towards that is just not important or nowhere near as important as this massive umbrella that's over our head that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be concerned about these other issues, whether they be political or environmental or whatever. But man, it's like there are just so many people that are walking around with blinders on or who just have their head buried in the sand and are not aware.
Right. Or so many people not walking around because they've been victim to an overdose. And the majority of the people that are victim to overdose because of what they have ingested that has been added to the fentanyl.
Yeah.
The xylazine. And we need to figure out as a state how we're going to prosecute that. And I say that is murder. If you knowingly put that in a drug and sell it, and that's murder.
Yeah.
That is not
what's going to happen?
Distribution of narcotic. I'm sorry. No, that's not.
What bugs me is like these two guys that just got busted yesterday in Barrie. Both of them from Springfield, Massachusetts. How many fucking times do we have to hear the words Springfield, Massachusetts? It's in the news all the time. We're always hearing about Springfield, Massachusetts. There's your artery. Pardon the pun. 91 North.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the governor, I mean, he needs to step up. He needs to figure something out.
And we love Phil to
We
death.
love Phil,
Let's
but man,
just say,
but
and we
something
know,
needs to be figured out
exactly
to more closely monitor 91.
Right, and I'm just saying, we're not being disrespectful
No.
when we say any of that. We're just saying we got to open our eyes up here because this is getting worse by the day, and our children are dying.
What's
our
400
kids, fathers, mothers, and all the kids left without a parent, and
right? 400 doses of fentanyl in the bust on South Main Street from two guys squatting from Springfield,
that
Massachusetts.
you know damn well that people in the area knew they were in there, and you know damn well probably people in the same building knew that they were in there.
Sunday, I met a little boy who is 9 years old, and we got talking, and in the conversation that we had, which was pretty light, he mentioned that his mom and dad both are in prison as a result of drugs. And
the sad
he
part,
hasn't seen them in years. I mean, like, I think he said the last time that he saw them, he was like 2 and doesn't even remember.
and
Obviously.
so there's that piece, and then add the piece of there are all kinds of kids that both of their parents are gone.
Yeah.
The vigil.
Right.
Having 2 little girls and a mom standing there with the father's urn.
Sure.
And when the father's name was called and the little girls just start crying.
Yep.
And I mean, come on.
And you've seen this with your own eyes.
With my own eyes.
Several times.
Yes. And the kids that are left behind, the parents that are left behind, the grandmas and brothers and sisters, we all need to start fighting together. And if you are a parent of somebody who is in active addiction, know that you're not alone. And we have to learn to start talking about it and talking loudly.
Yep.
It's the only way we're going to help our kids and our community, and it's the only way we're going to get out of this.
I could list 10 things off the top of my head right now easily that make me feel, as an older dad of 52 years old to a little girl who's almost 9, things that scare the shit out of me for her that she'll have to deal with long after I'm gone. And drugs are top 3, maybe top 2.
Rightfully so. I mean, I hope not. I hope by the time that's even something that Lily would even hear about, that we would have a much better grip and be in a much better place than we are right now.
And I can only hope that, that if I'm not around and Lily has drugs pushed on her by anyone, that I've raised her, and Sherilyn and I both have raised her well enough that she'll be able to deflect that.
Hopefully, but you never know.
You never know.
Because upbringing does not matter. It just doesn't. It doesn't work that way. And
it used to. It worked for me, my mom and dad, the way I was raised.
Well, that's because
that's a
you
different world, man.
Well, it is a very different world. There was a lot more discipline and respect, and a lot more. There was conversation about things that mattered. And I mean, obviously, there was still a problem, but nowhere near what the problem is right now.
Nope.
The difference is in today's world to then is
Right.
like unbelievable. I mean, and the stresses in the world, the stresses that we put upon our kids, have even changed. The political crap that they have to be tied up in all the time, and have the knowledge of, and the stuff that they are put in the middle of on a
Sure.
daily basis is really
It's unbelievable.
disgusting. It's disgusting. And it shouldn't happen, and it shouldn't even be a part of their
Yeah.
day. And that's the other difference is when we were growing up, we were allowed to grow up. We were allowed to be kids,
Yep.
and now kids grow up way too fast.
Yes.
Way too fast.
Way too fast.
And have knowledge of way too many things
You're
that they shouldn't have
absolutely right.
knowledge of.
Absolutely.
And the
right.
things that they should have knowledge of, they have no clue.
And listen, this is a rabbit hole. I mean, it's media, it's TV. I mean, it's everything. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Lily sees things just in commercials alone.
Mm-hmm.
Just in commercials.
Mm-hmm.
We saw a commercial on TV the other night for Dunkin' Donuts, and the commercial finished. You've all seen it. You know the commercial I'm talking about. Lily looks at me and she's like, "Dad, what was that about?" And I said to her, "Well, it was supposed to be about Dunkin' Donuts and coffee." And she's like, "I didn't understand that commercial at all." And I said, "Neither did I." Everything that's coming down the pipe, coming down, cell phones, coming through Netflix, coming everywhere, is creating a different culture.
Mm-hmm.
And the residual effect on that and all things, it's
Mm-hmm.
in music, it's everywhere, is affecting our youth, and it's programming.
Yeah.
Many of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be careful, and we need to be diligent. And as parents, we need to be dialed into what's happening with our kids on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening at school, what's happening at home, what's happening with their friends and their network of peers. We have to be more engaged and dialed into not only our kids, but each other.
And right, exactly, each other. What's going on in your community? What's going on around you? Keeping your eyes open, knowing if there's a crack house down the road,
Sure.
because you've paid attention and you've noticed the excessive traffic, and you've, being diligent and noticing the out-of-state plates, and the, maybe the box truck that shows up once a week that says it's U-Haul, and hello, who gets that much furniture delivered, right? All of that kind of stuff, to just be more aware and more diligent, and to speak
we're
out.
not saying profile every time you see a Massachusetts plate or whatever.
No, not
That's
at all.
That's not what anyone's saying.
But if
here.
you're seeing them at one house constantly come and go, or certain ones show up at certain times of the month, at the beginning of the month, one again at the end of the month, and they're only here,
right?
I mean, come on.
There is a campaign for See Something, Say Something right now, and it's huge.
Right, it is huge, and we need to start, but we also need to really talk about what we're going to do at a state level, what we're going to do at city and town level, and how we're going to protect our community. Because I've said it a million times, and I'll say it again. It's not a matter of, you don't want a service in your back door to deal with the crisis.
Sure.
I don't want that rehab center in my neighborhood.
Right.
Well, do you want that in your neighborhood, or a crack house in your neighborhood?
Sure.
Because it is here.
Yep.
It's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's already in your community. So how it is here is up to us. How we deal with it, how we decide we get to decide how it's going to remain here.
You're right. It is right here. But there are still so many people, Raylene, that are walking around with blinders on saying, well, yeah, there is a problem, but it's not that bad of a problem in my little town.
Right. Or they say how horrible a problem it is, but that they don't want to do anything about it. They don't want, I don't
Well,
want.
it's not my problem.
Right. It's not my problem. Or let's kill them all. Or let's, I mean, come on.
Right.
The chances of you knowing or being directly affected by somebody suffering
Sure.
with an addiction problem is pretty significant.
Sure.
We all probably more than likely know someone.
Yeah.
So or they're in our family, and we deal with it on a daily. So the crisis is here. It's in the city, and we get to choose. Right now, we get to choose how it's here.
You're right.
Let's choose wisely.
Yeah.
And let's start thinking about how it's going to exist and what we're going to do to try to help get what we need here for services, because right now there isn't any, and that means that shit's really going to hit the fan.
Yeah, in a matter of time, and the time is ticking, and it's getting nothing but worse. If you don't believe me, look at your screen right now. 2022 opioid overdose deaths among Vermonters. There it is right now. It shows you the trajectory between 20 and 22. Look at the rise.
And I bet you 90% of those cases should be charged as murder.
Yeah. And our source is the Vermont Department of Health, right there at the bottom of the screen. So there you have it. These numbers don't lie.
No.
And they are what they are.
Absolutely frightening. And
amazing.
Yeah, we really got to stick together here and figure this out.
Thanks, Raylene.
No, thank you for doing this with me today. This isn't your norm.
My pleasure. Anytime. You have a great show and a great service that you provide to the community by starting this podcast and having this very razor sharp, specific message and niche that is going out to the eyes and ears of our listeners, our viewers, without any edits, without any bullshit, and it's put out transparently for all to see, to hear, to share, to comment on, and I think you do an outstanding job.
Well, thank you.
We'll talk to you real soon. Are you all? Is that good?
I'm all good. See you all next Tuesday.
Thanks, Raylene. Bye-bye.